Hello everyone. This is the weapon tutorial that I promised you. Um, I will first start out with some Shadowbox. I will basically draw out the basic shapes of the main parts of the weapon that I want, and then afterwards I will start detailing it, cleaning it up and extracting it, making the final shapes. But first off, I'm gonna start out with the stock. Um, I draw from a reference picture, so um, you will see what I do next. But this part is the stock. You can see that Shadowbox is very easy to use. All you have to do is append an object, then go to the geometry submenu, press on Shadowbox, choose your resolution, choose how smooth you want your meshes to look afterwards, and then just press Shadowbox and a box will appear, and basically you can draw either on the front side of the box or the underside or the side. So when you draw on the I will say right side for now, but when you draw on the right side, basically that is the length of the object, and if you draw on the front side, you basically choose the thickness of this object, and the underside is how you want the shape to look from above. So basically I'm just blocking out the main shape of the back of the stock. Right now it looks a little bit boxy, but that's okay. I will fix that later. Remember not to use a lot of resolution when you're using Shadowbox, because you want to block out shapes and not create them from the Shadowbox, because although Shadowbox is good, you are not going to get this exact results that you want. You have to go in and clean it up, polish it a little bit, and shape it to what you really want. So keep in mind, not too high resolution on Shadowbox. Now you can set polish to 100, but it takes a little bit of time for it to create the shape that you draw. So keep it in under 20 and you'll be fine, because again you don't want a too high resolution. So and basically when you're done with Shadowbox, you will just go in with the smooth brush and clean it up anyway, so polish doesn't really matter for the at this point. You can already see that this is the shape of um, the stock. I'm going to create the top side of it. I don't know what it's called, but for now just the top side of it. This weapon is called the ACR, I think. Yes, ACR. I'm not sure. It's similar to the Scar weapon. I don't know the real name for that weapon. Perhaps it's the Scar, but for now we'll call it the Scar weapon. But this is the ACR, so if you're looking for reference pictures, um, don't look for the scar weapon because it's slightly different than this one. Here you can see that I am now on the front side, determining the thickness of the stock. Now, not everything can be done in Shadowbox. As you can see, it looks a little bit boxy and it would take too much work to go ahead and polish it up, making it a little bit rounded. So what I did next is I appended a cylinder, and with the help of mask I will pull it down from the middle, making it a little bit square on the underside, and then I will just dynamesh it, change the perspective, and basically put it into the right place, mask it, extract it, and it will look much better than the one I was going to do in Shadowbox. So right now that's what I'm doing here. So just rotating it, putting it to the right position. I selected the right thickness so it fits perfectly. So if you're creating basic shapes like this, choose the best way. So not always, Shadowbox will not always work. Sometimes you have to use some of the primitive shapes in Zbrush to create what you want. So right now I'm matching it to the underside. And for this tutorial I'm not going to use any hotkeys. Well, I'm going to use some of the hotkeys, like how to select smooth and how to select the masking brushes and stuff like that. But I'm not going to use custom menus because maybe some of you guys may be beginners and are just looking for a good weapon tutorial. Well, this isn't a good weapon tutorial, but I hope it helps. So I'm not going to use any custom menus so that you can see what I'm doing. I would say this weapon took about 2-3 hours to make minimum, but that all depends on if if you really like the project or not. If you don't, it will take a little bit longer. So using the clip curve brush to create the bezel that you see on the stock. Right now I'm trying to find the right perspective to cut in. I think this was pretty much it. Now this shape is not the final stock. This is what I'm going to extract from. So I'm cleaning it up a little bit so that the extracted mesh looks much cleaner than this one. Making weapons in Zbrush is pretty easy, especially if you're making organic weapons. You can go at it the sculpting ways, but as you can see here, normal weapons work just fine. If you have any weapon suggestions that I should do, feel free to ask. I will look into it, but I can't promise anything. For the most part, I'm using the clip curve brush, the masking feature in Zbrush, smooth of course. What else? I use polygroups to create holes in the mesh. You will see that later in the video. I will also include um, some of the hotkeys that I use in the description below, so that you can so that you know what I was doing at the point that I was doing it, I guess. So right now I think I'm done with the concept mesh. So now I'm going to extract from it. I need the upper part to be open so that you can see, so that it slides really nicely into the upper part. And it's always handy to use the existing parts to match the mask. And when you're done, just choose your thickness and then extract, check if it's good, and if it's not, try again. And you can always come in with the clip brushes and clean it up, but for it I think this is a good result. Now that I extracted it, you can see that the upper part is too big, so I'm going to match it with the under part, and it should look a little bit better. So guys, use Shadowbox to block out your shapes and then come in and clean it up. So don't depend on Shadowbox to do everything. You're going to have to do a little bit too. So, but that's the fun part. Now, real life weapons usually don't have sharp edges. Most of them don't. So keep in mind that when you're making any hard surfaces, smooth out some of the edges because it looks more realistic. I personally like the sharp looks, but um, it's I think it's just a personal preference. So again, I'm using Shadowbox to block out a shape. And as you can see here, I use the same part to create some of the other parts. Always handy because it has the right thickness to it. with the help of move I can change the perspective of the mesh and create better looking shapes. And for everyone who is wondering, the final video of the Zbrush art surface tutorial is going to come, but for right now I have to make the weapon tutorial, finish that, and then I will immediately start working on the final part, because I think you guys are waiting for it, and you want to see the final results of the mech that I was making. But yeah, now you know. Here I'm creating the part of the mechanism in of the weapon. Basically, the stock rotates around this point, I think, collapsing it. As you can see here, I'm smoothing out the edges to make it look more like the reference picture, and then I merge them together to match the clip that I do. Matching it to the under part. I will use this concept mesh. With the help of masking, I will make the final shape. This tutorial is about I think 1.5 hours, so I will split it into two parts. First part will be, I think, blocking out the main shape of the weapon, and then the second part will be more detailing and making the scope and a turnable of the model. So as you can see, it's not perfect right now, but I can always come in and clean it up. Mm. So here you can see masking wasn't really necessary for this one. I just had to clean it up and match it to the on the other parts of the stock. So now I will move on to the main weapon, and this time I won't be using Shadowbox but just a regular square to create the base of the weapon. Choose the right thickness, of course, and with the help of clip curve I just got into the square, making the top side of the rifle, and then cutting off the underside. And then this when I'm done with a little bit of concepting, I will start masking it out and cleaning it, making the upper part of the weapon. Now I don't always work on the same part all the time, so usually I just switch between some of them and then come in later, finish up what I started. Also, remember to smooth out some of the hard edges, because when you're using extracting, when you're using the extracting feature, Zbrush sometimes can't really figure out what to do with the sharp edges, so you get some very weird results. I set thickness to 0.01, double is turned on, making it a little bit thicker, but slightly thinner than 0.02. And with the help of Shadowbox, I'm going to create the handle parts of the weapon. So the place where the handle will go, I will create next using Shadowbox. And the best thing about Shadowbox is you can scale it, you can move it around, putting it to the right place, and then using the existing mesh to help you draw the rest of the object, and that's always nice to have. Polish is now turned down to 23. Resolution is about 200. I think a little less than 250, slightly above 250. If you're going to make weapon in Zbrush, you're going to use Shadowbox a lot, most of the time, for blocking out main shapes. That's really what it is for. And of course, then editing the shapes that you created. Right now I'm blocking out the shape of the gun and the rifle handle, but I wasn't happy with I wasn't happy with the result that I had. So just like the upper part of the stock, I used one of the primitive shapes in Zbrush to create it. So right now all I'm doing is blocking out the main shapes using several shadow boxes so that I can easily work instead of going in, making it, polish it, then go in again with Shadowbox. I just do everything at once, and that's slightly faster, but I still have to go in sometimes to use Shadowbox again, but that's okay. This is the this is the trigger part, I think. Yes. I basically use the same technique that I used in the previous video to create this weapon. So instead, but I didn't use the retopology function of Zbrush for this weapon. It wasn't really needed. Maybe when I will create a low poly of this weapon, I might use it. But for now, just the regular modeling method of concepting, masking, cleaning up, clipping a little bit, and then putting it to the right place. I'm using the uh, I'm using the mesh to match the thickness of the other parts. I'm looking at the side of the weapon, so I don't really know how thick it is, but I take I I just compared it to some of the other perspective pictures, and I try to do my best to match the thickness of the model to the real weapon. But of course it might be a little bit thicker or thinner, I don't know. And the size tool is really amazing. um, it can be accessed using skill as well, but you have to choose which perspective you want to use. I think the going into geometry menu, submenu, and choosing your size is much faster, but again everyone has a different workflow. With the help of delete by symmetry, also in the geometry submenu, you can easily delete some of the parts that you don't want using close holes. You can of course close holes. Delete hidden will delete hidden parts that you probably haven't seen, and it will slightly decrease the resolution of the model, and that's always nice to have. Right now the model is set to 2.2 million polygons. I think the final model was about 4 to 5 million with the scope, but it all that depends on the scope, because I made it in when I was sculpting it. I didn't When I was sculpting the scope, I left it the way it was, so the size of the scope was too big, and when I was dynameshing, the resolution just wouldn't go down. I just figured that out when I was done, and it was too late, but that's okay. I can always retopologize it, so it doesn't really matter for this at this point. Right now I'm trying to block out the details on the model, not the final details, but just the ones that really really define where everything goes. And keep in mind when using the clip circle brush, if the little plus that you see in the center of the circle is on the mesh, it will not cut it, but it will create a circle, so keep that in mind. And it kind of messes around with the geometry, but that is what Dynamesh is for, so easily fixed. So this was what I was talking about. The stock looks a little bit boxy, in my opinion. I don't know if it's me, but I don't really like how it looks. So I think I will change it using a sphere, making it a little bit more curved. And usually for weapons I don't use clay buildup or clay or the standard brush, because it only makes the surface it makes the surface worse. So much more cleaner results if you avoid them. But of course, if you're good with them, if you know how to use it, it will be okay. But for hard surfaces, you want the best result. You want the smoothest surfaces. So it's okay not to use them. Right now, the weapon is already shaping up, looking like something that you would call a weapon, but of course it needs a lot more detail before you can say, okay, this is about this is what I was talking about, this is the weapon that I mean. The thickness was a little bit too thick, so I uh, I made it a little bit smaller so that the weapon can so that the shapes that I wanted to create worked out really well. I'm matching the upper part of the weapon to the scope. So choosing the right perspective to cut out the a slight curve, a curvature right there, and then just using the smooth brush to get rid of some of the hard edges. Now, if you're if you're extracting and you say, hey, why don't I get so clean results? That's the main problem. Would is probably because your concept mesh is too messy. So clean it up a little bit better, then extract it, and then clean up your extracted mesh, of course, and you will get much cleaner results. So and if your Dynamesh will not always be needed, not every part needs Dynamesh per se, so keep that in mind as well. For instance, when I'm creating the barrel of the weapon, I don't choose Dynamesh until I'm finished, or until I don't have enough resolution anymore to really make out a shape. So when when I will start making the barrel, you will see what I mean. Dynamesh is not always needed. This is my attempt to create a better gun and better rifle handle, because I disliked the first one. This one is based off the Scar rifle handle, with some slight adjustments, of course. So using mask, pressing while whilst mask is selected, pressing on the mesh will smooth out the mask. But you can also go into the masking menu that you see right below the deformation submenu, and basically when you press that, you can also choose the feature in there. You can choose a lot more features as well, but for now the only hotkey that I use for that is smoothing out the mask. For the gun handle, I will merge two shapes to create one final shape, and then edit that shape instead of editing both shapes at the same time. So Dynamesh is a great tool when it comes to merging, because it merges the mesh, and it connects all the making it one whole. So that's always good. Using the move tool and inverse mask, I will create the grip of the handle, I think. So again, as you can see, the mask is now smoothed, and now I get the result that I want. So pressing on the mesh while it's already masked will smooth out the mask, sorry. And now that I have these two shapes, I will just merge them and then dynamesh it, creating one shape, and then smoothing it, of course, moving it to the right position. You can already see that the weapon is shaping up really nicely. Like I said, the the first part of this tutorial is mostly blocking out shapes, creating them, putting it into the right position so that I can see how it's going to look. Then I'm going to go in and create the smaller details. I was having some trouble with this part. It just didn't want to look how I wanted it to, because I couldn't really see how it looked on the reference picture. So I was just trying out some things. Eventually, I abandoned it a little bit and moved on to some other part, and then went back in and finally saw what I wanted, and then I changed it. That's all I'm doing. Usually it's finding the right perspective to edit the mesh, and of course it shouldn't look like a square. Not everything on the weapon is a square, so it should match the other parts. With the help of the move tool, I will reshape the stock from a straight gun. Oh, not the stock, I mean the gun handle, sorry. I will reshape it to making it a little bit curved. Right now I'm trying to find a nice shape that I want for the upper part. It takes a little bit, it takes some time. Remember, in Zbrush you will not always be able to have 90 degree cuts using the clip brushes. So keep that in mind as well. So now that I'm done with the rifle handle, I will move on to the part where the trigger is and make it a little bit and shape it up, making the main shape that I want. I hope this weapon tutorial helps you guys get a little bit more uh, knowledge of how to create some of the normal weapons that you see in games inside Zbrush as well. It is a fast process, and I think you will get, if you're practicing a lot, you will eventually get the same result as if you were making it in UDS Max or some other project, some other program. So this is what I was talking about. Now I'm matching. Now I'm sort of curving the gun handle. I I personally like this look much better than the just straight one, but again, that's me. So this is already starting to look like a weapon, I guess. Now, now it comes down to the smaller details that really bring the look of the weapon to life. The poly count for this right now is 2.2 million. At this point, I'm already making some of the smaller details on the weapon. Um, This is one of the smaller details that I'm creating. It I created in Shadowbox because that's easier for me. Then I just scale it in and put it in the right position. We're almost um, we're almost done with the first part of the tutorial. Just I think little little more than 5 minutes. Um, I think at this point I was going to create the um, the rails for this weapon, the front part of the weapon, um, where the barrel will go in. I'm using the already existing mesh to match out to match up the underpart of the rails. And the reason why I used Shadowbox is because it's a much faster way to smooth out some meshes, um, because the resolution is so low. It got rid of the sharp edges, so masking will go a lot smoother. On this part, I will make use of polygroups and the clip brushes, or the slice brushes. Sorry. As you can see, just extracted that. Um, Still playing around with the thickness of the weapon. I'm using the clip brushes a lot for this. The weapon is already shaping up. What I'm doing here next is not something new, I think. This is me just creating the rails of the weapon. With Shadowbox is a lot easier than duplicating one part the whole time. So instead of duplicating, I'm just going to make three parts of the rail, and then just put them into the right position, then duplicate them, and then merge them, and then duplicate the six or nine wheels, and it will go a lot faster. You will see that in a minute. This was I think this is the end of the first part of this tutorial. I will let this play. I will let this play, and then I guess I will see you in the next part.